When I survey the wondrous cross on which the Prince of Glory died, my richest gain I count but loss, and pour contempt on all my pride.
Good morning, welcome to worship. We're recording today in one of our Sunday school halls, the J.H. Carter Hall, and it's lovely to be somewhat seated at the table of the Lord. A friend recently asked if I would contribute a paragraph or two to a book that he's writing. He wanted me to share just a particular anecdote about a life-changing moment in my own personal journey. And once I had submitted it to him, he then asked the obvious question. He said, "Do you want to remain anonymous, or should I put your name to it?" And I surprisingly felt like I needed to think about that for a moment. Because although there isn't like any salacious gossip or anything in the story, it's a personal story, it's a sacred story for me. And I had to decide, do I feel like being exposed to this larger audience that the book would attract? Might I be judged in any way for this story? Might there be some colleagues or friends or others who know me a bit better than some who might be cynical about the story? So did I want my name to it? Eventually I decided I must, because this is, after all, my story. This is who I am, whether I like it or not. And although I'm not often sympathetic with politicians and necessarily all who occupy the kind of public life in that way, this part of that side of life does baffle me. I mean, why do we judge people so rigorously for who they have been? How can it possibly be fair for us to expect that a human being has never been foolish in their life, never said anything stupid, and especially so, I think, from their youth? So why are we so surprised when we find out that a politician has taken some ill-advised photo in years gone by, or said something terrible in his distant past or her distant past? For me, the burning question isn't, have you ever behaved stupidly or unwisely? I mean, who amongst us hasn't? The real question for all of us is, have we changed? Or at the very least, are we changing? Are we becoming something else? So I know people who have said terrible things about gay people in years gone by, and yet who have then grown and come to see the world differently. I know people who condemned divorce vociferously until, when their own children went through divorce, they found themselves landing in a gentler place. I've seen bad husbands become good husbands, or at least better husbands. I've seen timid people become courageous. God has an amazing way of helping people change their lives. So I think our past can be a precarious place, because even as we are transformed or being transformed, even as we change, this thing of our past can come and haunt us. It can trip us up. It can come back and visit us unexpectedly. It can condemn us. It can rob us of our present. And so the question for me is, do I need to remain a prisoner of my past? Am I forever bound to this past in a way in which it condemns me? Am I forever condemned because of yesterday's foolishness? Or can there be an authentic freedom in my present? And to use the word that Paul uses in our passage today, can I not only have like a sense of freedom for now, but can there be a real sense of hope for the future, a sense of being able to move on with a confidence into what lies ahead? So I took such encouragement from these words that Paul writes. He says, God proves his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. I love the history in that sentence. I love that sense of a yesterday. I love the sense of something from the past being at work. That we were loved while we were still sinners. That we were loved while it was still yesterday and before it became today. We were loved when we were still foolish. We were loved when we were still unwise. We were loved in our unattractive and messy past. We were loved yesterday before it became today. Life comes to us all at great cost. And I don't think life's lessons for any of us are ever cheap. We all pay different prices for what we learn, to be sure, but we all pay something in this life. And God meets us not when we are good or right or healthy and whole. He meets us while we are still sinners. And so I want to say to you, take seriously the lessons that your past has taught you and that your past continues perhaps to still teach you. Both the harms that we have caused to others and the wounds that have been inflicted on us are our unique training ground for life, but not just life, but for life with God. No one else has lived your particular chemistry of chaos. No one else has your particular inventory of pain. So I want to say to you, honor your history, not in the sense of glorifying your history, but honor your messy history. Don't abandon what has been. Because it's through the cauldron of our past that we first come to meet and then slowly to understand the grace of God. It's through the truth of our lives, the whole truth of our lives, that grace is in fact grasped. And so Paul says to us in this passage we read today, we boast in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope, and hope does not disappoint us, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit that has been given to us. Scholars mostly agree that the book of Romans was probably written around 56 or 57 AD, and Emperor Nero began his persecution of the Christians around 64 AD. So this word that is in this translation translated as sufferings that Paul uses, we can almost certainly be sure doesn't refer to the Christian persecution with which we're familiar in the New Testament. This Paul is referring to the everyday troubles of life, the troubles that we have caused others and the troubles that we have brought on our own, and all of the unhappiness that life brings. Paul says to us there's something that can happen with those troubles. He says trouble teaches us endurance, and endurance builds character, and character produces hope, and hope doesn't disappoint us because we have God's Spirit to help us. It's Paul's gentle nudge for us to grow. It's his nudge for us to change. It's his help for us to see that our past is something upon which we can build. So even these present troubles, these coronavirus troubles that we're in at the moment, I encourage you not to just wish them away. Try to honor them in some way. Try to recognize that they are a gateway to us all becoming something new. Our troubles teach us endurance, character, hope, and hope doesn't disappoint. So, all of our stories are different stories. Some of you will have been asked in the course of your life to forgive some truly terrible wrongs. Some of you will have had to carry unbearable pain which many of us cannot even fathom. Some of you will have needed second chances, or third, or fourth, or fifth. Some of you will have lived ostracized lives, sidelined by your family, or by some key friends, or even by society in some instances. All of our stories are different. All of us bear our unique pains. But somehow in the messiness of our past, the seeds of God's mercy have been sown into our lives. And it's from our yesterdays, it's through our troubles that God establishes our future. It is while we were still sinners. It is while we were still sinners that Christ died for us. We were loved yesterday, before it became today.